Today, we're digging into the ingredients of a business that's built to last. My guest is Linda Renteria, COO and co-owner of Casa Sanchez Foods, a beloved third-generation maker of fresh salsa and tortilla chips. Linda shares the behind-the-scenes reality of navigating a family business as an in-law and how she helped lead the company through major scaling moments, like going from 20 to 200 store deliveries in just 6 months. We also talk about how her background in engineering helped to bring structure to a fast-growing food brand, and why she's so passionate about helping the next generation, both in her family and beyond, see a future in manufacturing. Plus, Henry jumps in to ask about tortilla-making robots and what Linda hopes the fourth and fifth generations will bring to the table. All this and more coming up on this episode of Building Unbreakable Brands. Welcome to Building Unbreakable Brands, the podcast where we talk to business leaders with a generational mindset. I'm Meghan Lynch. I'm an advisor to family businesses and CEO of 6 Point Strategy, a brand strategy agency that helps generational brands honor their past while evolving for the future. Today, my guest is Linda Renteria. Linda and her husband, Robert Sanchez, own and manage Casa Sanchez Foods, a third-generation manufacturer and distributor of fresh salsas and tortilla chips. Welcome, Linda. So glad to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me.
So I was hoping you could start off by just taking us a little bit through the history of Casa Sanchez Foods, just to understand a little bit more about where the company came from and where you've been.
Sure. The company started, as you said, this is third generation, so it started 101 years ago in San Francisco. His grandparents came from Mexico and started a food business out of their home, which turned into a Mexicatessen, which is a store with Mexican products. And then from there, it led to a restaurant and the tortilla manufacturing when his father split and got married. And then my husband came in, and now we have our own business using the same Casa Sanchez logo and name with our own products and manufacturing.
So I think it's really interesting that you come in as an in-law to the business and are running it, helping to run it now as COO and owner. And that's such a unique role and perspective. I think a lot of our listeners have in-laws, are in-laws or have in-laws who are really integral to the family business. But it's not an easy role to navigate. Like that's a tough one. So I'm curious how you've handled it. Like, what helped you earn trust? How did you find a role within the company that you felt comfortable with and that you've been able to grow into?
You don't. We walked away. My husband tried. He had told me this before. When I met him, I was trying to be pleasant with the family, everything else. I had my own career. So he had the business, and I respected that. And I said, okay, you handle the business. I'll support any way I can. Then once the kids came along, I continued to support in health benefits, managing, but he walked away from the business, and we had a whole different business. We had 2 bars at the airport, SFO, and coffee shops at San Francisco State. Mm-hmm. Once they realized that they were not able to maintain the business, we came back. But I've always respected that relationship of that is the family business with his family. I am involved only when he asks for some opinions. Mm-hmm. But I never attended the family meetings. I never did any of that. Again, because I didn't want them to think, well, she came in and now she's trying to take over. I never did that. I was always just more of a support system. But when we realized it was not going to work, we did split and start our own business. And I have a say in the business here, partnership with my husband, but I don't get involved when they're making their own decisions on what they're doing with their business. And I think that has helped to maintain that boundary.
Yeah. So it sounds like figuring out how you can be supportive without really stepping on other people's toes and trying to keep some, as you said, kind of like guardrails in between that.
Yeah, and I think, again, my husband's an adult. and he loves his siblings to death. They have not been supportive, but he does still want to keep that relationship going. So it's his decisions that as long as they don't impact my kids, that's a whole different scenario. That's completely separate. That, oh, no, we are not. Then I do have a voice in there, but again, through my husband, not for him to see the value of maintaining the business for our children to inherit.
Mm-hmm. Knowing that, has that changed the way, that you have approached your business with your husband, or how you think about like the family business, or how it grows, or how you incorporate in-laws or non-family members?
Great question, because you're right, Megan. This one, I have been inspired. I went to a presentation by a company who is in their 5th generation, and they all get along. It's amazing. And I was like so impressed and inspired by that I am now writing the famous family council agreement, or what. I'm drafting that because you're correct. My kids get along great right now, but that could change because I have one child that is working the business. The other two kind of help support, kind of hear opinions, but they are not. And we have one daughter-in-law, and they all love her and treat her like a sister. But what happens when the other two get partners? And I just want to make sure that it's all clearly stated in a document that they all agree on how anything happens, how all of this happens. Because I want to be that 5th generation company that's having a great time and enjoying, and not what happened to my husband. So very good point that I'm starting that process right now too.
Yeah, I love that because it's so much easier to write those documents when everybody is getting along, right? It's like now, you've got the in-law that you love, everybody is feeling good about it. So to kind of write more about like, how do we keep this going? Not so much once things have already started to devolve, then it's a lot harder to have those conversations.
Exactly. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Oh, that's great that you're starting that, and also able to kind of like see, what is the family business that we want to create, and see some role models out there that you can learn from and start implementing some things.
Yeah, because I think that there's several wrong models that we've seen that have gone wrong. Family business is very wrong, and it was not just the first generation, but it continued.
Yeah.
That those issues continued later on, the bitterness, and I do not want that for this business.
Yeah, or for your kids, right?
Exactly.
You want that to keep that love and that respect going, and
exactly
model that.
Yeah.
That's great. And so in this business, you are the COO and are focused on, you have an engineering background and are really focused on the operations side of the company. So as you've grown into leadership in that business and are running those pieces of it, have there been some like early operations issues, process challenges? I know particularly in food manufacturing, the process and operations challenges are almost ongoing, but are there any that kind of jump to mind as issues that you solved early on that you could kind of use your background to help bring a different perspective to them?
Yeah, communication was a big one. And also just setting a structure, having a structure and procedures in place. People would tell me, oh, it's the Casa Sanchez way. What does that mean, Casa Sanchez way? There's a business way, and then there's no other way. And getting to the communication. One, it's great when you're so small, you can walk into an office and talk about a problem to someone, and then you walk out, and then you go and talk to somebody else, and the conversation has changed. But they don't know that they're related, the departments are related at all, or that one conversation may impact the department, has no clue about it. So we started having weekly what I call coordination meetings. So all the department reps will show up at the meeting and discuss what the issue is, and then someone can say, oh, you know what, that impacts me too, because we were missing orders. We weren't, and then inventory was off. So there were a lot of issues, and then finding out, well, I forgot to tell you, or this didn't happen. And that way there's checks and balances within the departments, and having employee handbooks, having written procedures. At the time I came in, and we had a great quality assurance person come in too. And she realized that the recipes were not written down, because you've got to keep that secret. And all of a sudden, Okay, but if they're not written down, what happens? So all of those procedures came to play. But again, for me, it was more documentation, making sure we have employee handbooks, training, tons of training all the time to make sure everybody's on the same page and move forward.
Yeah, it's funny. I think that the not writing recipes down is such a great example of those moments when I feel like, particularly when you're moving from like a founder-led or more kind of like organic growth company to something that is looking to scale, and you realize like, oh, right, this thing that I thought I was doing to help the company and to add value, like, for example, we don't write the recipes down because they need to be secret, and that's our value. You know, it's how I'm helping the company is to not write them down. All of a sudden, that very thing that you've been doing to help, all of a sudden now is like the very thing that's like stopping, you know, quality control or stopping the company from continuing on because the person who knew the recipe isn't there. Or, yeah, that's really, really interesting. And was there like pushback, or was it difficult to move from that like Casa Sanchez way to writing things down and kind of making that transition?
Oh yeah, there was, and then we explained to them, and again back to the training that the more you know, the data you collect and you inform employees about this. Okay, if we can't maintain the inventory, and because people come up to me and say, "Oh, I saw so and so take avocados for home or whatever," and I said, interesting. He would kind of smirk about that and say, "See, Linda, say you're losing money," and I go, "Actually, you're losing money because the more we structure things and we do it appropriately, you get paid more. We become more efficient. Then we account for exact accountability, and then we will be able to pay everyone more." Because if we keep losing product or we keep losing things that are not, and again, that was also a game changer because people started reporting that we were losing product through the back door. Wait, what? What? Yeah, and that helped us to rid ourselves of people that were not good, honest employees and were selling through the back door, and it changed the whole motivation. But again, there was more discipline, accountability, disciplinary procedures in place that were more coaching, but at the same time, this can't keep happening. This is not a good vibe. And again, when you just said it, Meghan, too, when someone starts a company, they think they know everything. And my husband was like, "Oh, I'll take care of that. I'll take care of that." I said, No, we're hiring people to take care of things. You need to focus on what you're doing. And so that also changed to make sure that the experts were given a voice, not just the owner, founder, that I got this. No, we've hired people, we're paying them. They can help us build this company or grow the company.
You're listening to Building Unbreakable Brands, the podcast all about brand stewardship and crafting an enduring legacy. I'm speaking with Linda Renteria, who's been the COO of Casa Sanchez Foods since 2011. So speaking of this kind of growth points, inflection points in the company, Casa Sanchez has grown into a strong brand with national distribution. Have there been some like pivotal moments or decisions that you can now look back on that you're like, ooh, this is something that, a change that we made or an idea that we had that really helped us scale successfully?
Yes. So, the company was founded on really good product, quality product, the fresh salsas and wonderful chips. So we make, they taste really well, a good consistency is there. But one of the things that launched us the most was direct store distribution. That means that we have our own people taking it to the store, merchandising it. And Whole Foods is a great retailer to start with. And they are really focused on helping local businesses. So they got us in. We were able to put a refrigerator at the end cap and add our chips around it. And then, of course, Safeway came in one day and said, "What the heck? How come we don't have that at Safeway? Why don't I get that?" And so I was at the meeting when I first started, at the meeting when the buyer said, "Okay, I'm challenging you to this. You're delivering directly to our stores in 20 stores. Can you do 200? And I will give you the end caps. You have to put in your refrigerator with your salsa, and I'll give you the space to put the chips around it." That making is a huge thing for food people. And end caps are gold mines for us. So my husband, I'm thinking, wait, you want it done in 6 months? 200 routes in 6 months? And I was already going like, well, thanks, but we won't. And my husband's like, yeah, we can do this. We will do this. And we did. And so it was 200 within 6 months. And again, for anybody in businesses, you know that it's not just production stuff that you need. You need to make sure that we're going to need cars, vehicles, we're going to need refrigerators. All of that had to happen. And that was a huge one that I think the growth of the business was tremendously impacted by that. It was a lot of work for us, but that one helped launch us into a lot more stores and more recognition.
Yeah. It's one of those like, be careful what you wish for moments, right? Oh no,
Yes.
we're saying yes. And then wait, what are we going to do? But I think that's that entrepreneurial spirit, right? Of like saying yes first and then figuring out how you're going to do it after the fact. Probably why he was really grateful that he could be the entrepreneur and then be married to a systems person.
That's right. Because when it started happening, okay, we're doing this. All right, let's see. What do we have to do? Get it done. Yeah.
I feel like particularly with food brands, people can have a really deep emotional connection to the brand, to the way it's made, the way it tastes, the packaging, everything about it can be very emotional. And I do think it's something that it's not totally unique to food, but it's something that for whatever reason, I think gets a lot stronger with food. And I'm curious whether you've been surprised by the emotional connection that people have to the product at any point.
Tremendous. It's tremendous. People love the corn man. They love the corn man, and they tattooed it to their bodies. So in 1997, my sister-in-law at the time, my mother-in-law still had the restaurant, and the first person that came in said, I love the logo so much, I tattooed it to my body. And then, of course, they say, oh, you know what, we'll give you a burrito for free every time you come in and show me your tattoo. 41 people later. There were jokes on late night TV about this that, I don't know, if this company is going to survive, that would be $5.8 million. I think they did a calculation on this, and then great marketing technique. No, it was not. How do you make it sustainable? So that was pretty cool. And we get a lot of emails from our customers just being grateful to that. They love the product. And we have a salt-free product. We have organic product too. They love that. I go to meetings. Because I volunteer a lot. And then people say, wait, are you with Casa Sanchez? And I go, yeah, I work there. Yeah, I work there. Oh, can I take a picture with you? It's so cool, man. Because people like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm sitting at the table with Casa Sanchez Foods. And I just love your products. And the ultimate was pandemic. We are known as a party food. So you can see our sales peak during Super Bowl, Cinco de Mayo, 4th of July, picnic, all of that. That's where we peak sales. But during pandemic, we were very, very nervous. Like, who's going to throw a party? No one. And then we started getting emails and calls on how it's comfort food. We love you so much. I can trust your salsas, and you are my vegetables. And then I eat while I'm watching TV instead of popcorn. I eat chips and salsa. So it was cool to hear all that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's got to be fun when you realize what an important part you are of people's daily lives, because it's so easy to get just sucked into the day-to-day that goes into making a product, and you can get kind of disconnected from the impact that it has. I think, again, particularly with food and something like that, where it is part of people's rituals. It is a comfort food. It is part of their day-to-day life. That it's great to be reminded of that connection.
Yeah. And then we come back with those messages to our employees, to the whole team, to say, hey, guess what? I just was there, and thank you guys, everybody, for making this possible, because they do a great job.
Yeah. I do think you've hit, that is kind of like a brand aspiration of somebody tattooing their logo onto you. Like, that's when you've like really have something that works, is when people are willing to tattoo it onto their bodies.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I don't have a tattoo of our logo.
That's probably wise. Again, just to kind of like speak about some of the things that are sort of unique to the food space. I mean, it's also a space that there is just a constant influx of new products, new products from big brands with really deep pockets that will invest a lot into a brand that might look, artisan or handmade or something, but actually it's owned by some gigantic conglomerate. And then also just new startup brands emerging all the time. I think it's just like a space that gets people a lot of like, oh, I'm known for making cookies. I'm going to make my cookies, at scale or whatever. But as kind of third generation, family owned, looking, you've got your eyes on fifth generation. How have you managed to kind of figure out what about our company needs to stay the same? Where do we need to make sure that we don't change and react to every little new competitor or new trend that's going on, while at the same time kind of still staying agile and relevant and, responding to a changing market or consumer preferences or things like that?
Yeah, again, we listen to our customer base is wonderfully loyal, and also they love to communicate. They let us know when something, have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? And so we listen to them and our retailers, working with our retailers too, because you're right. When sales go on other chips, little bigger company, worldwide, and they say, okay, buy one, get two free. How do you compete? You can't. You can't compete with that. And we find that we have our niche and we try to do that promotional with the niche of the customers. They will buy and they will make that. They are willing to pay more because they know what they're getting to. Mm-hmm. And again, we all have customer bases and that's fine. So we listen to them and we have brought out products. Every few years, we'll bring out a new product and test it on the market. And we've been really fortunate. I tell people that the company was started with, the salsas were started by recipes by his mother. And one of the recipes we came up with about 8 years ago was my mother's recipe for her salsa.
Oh, fun.
Because everyone has different salsa. Yeah. And so we tested out and then also always on the lookout for what's out there that's new that could fit in with our branding too. Mm-hmm. So we have come up with different chips, different salsas. And we're about to hit another salsa in about 6 months, a brand new, maybe 2 salsas and some other chips too to fit in. But you have to keep the traditional stuff that is people love. Again, back to that comfort food that you're craving, and then bring in some new ones for new customers that they may like. Mm-hmm. But again, and also working with the retailers that say, okay, for example, one of our big retailers, they make more money off of us than they do off of some of the more known brands.
Oh, interesting.
And they know that, and they realize that, so they want to keep us. Yeah, right now we're working with a big box that says, nope, you can't have a price hike. And we said, we can't do it otherwise. And that's a big, huge decision for us to say, no, we cannot do it without the price hike. And they walked away, and now they're calling again, saying, okay, can we have another discussion?
Oh, wow.
Because they do know we sell well. We do sell well. We have, again, back to that customer base, they are out there. And that's important for any brand too, that as long as you're making consistent, really good product, your customers are willing to buy it and pay for it.
How do you go about listening to customers? Like, are they emailing you? Are they reaching out to you with feedback? Are you reaching out to them? Like, how do you get that? Do you have a system for it?
And back to the scaling of all of this, because right now they're very vocal. Mm-hmm. We get calls, we get emails, they post on our website, and we don't really have a website or social media. We're not strong there. That's one of the things that we do need to look at in the next few years. But we maintain a presence so that people can contact us, communicate with us, our buyers. The Nielsen ratings, we use that too. In the Northern Bay Area, we are number 3 in chips behind that little company called Frito-Lay.
So I've heard of them, I think.
Yeah, right? They're around. And in salsas, we are number 1, 2, and 3 in sales for salsas in the Northern Bay Area. We use that information to say, okay, our customer base is still there, and we are extending to other regions. But again, they're very vocal, and we like that. Mm-hmm. So anybody calls in, and we take the message, we talk to them, we communicate and engage with them.
Yeah. And how do you decide what out of their feedback to react to or take action on? Because it's also hard if you've got people who are constantly giving you ideas or giving you feedback. You could very easily get pulled off in a lot of weird directions that don't make sense for your family or your business. You know, obviously they're going to have their own viewpoint that isn't necessarily the business case for the idea. Or so how do you go about sorting through that and kind of making decisions on what are we going to act on versus what is just feedback that we're going to put aside?
So we have an organic chip that we started unsalted. And my pet peeve is that, okay, we need a salted chip. We need a salted chip. But then you hear from a lot of people that, thank you so much. I have high blood pressure. Thank you so much. I'm of an age that I can't have salted chips in your chip. So we have that group. So again, you hear from them, but then you have others that call in and say, I need a salted chip. I want an organic chip that's salted. So we're finally going to be able to do that. We are going to have a salted chip. That's one of the new chips that's coming out. But we're keeping the organic unsalted because we have a customer base for that. My husband also came up with a marketing idea that we put pictures on the back label of our products, pictures of employees, pictures of historical stuff. We got one call in the 7 years that we've been doing this, one call saying like, I hate having to look at somebody's face when I open your salsa. You know, and again, the person that handles these calls and these is like, so Linda, what should I say to this person? Thank you for your message. That was it. And what else can you say? I mean, we have one out of all of the other ones, and that's what you do. You take it in stride and say, okay, so that person was grumpy. They don't want to look at our amazing master to salsa maker that day. Fine. But that's what we do. But you're right. It is important to look at those and then say, okay, where are our sales coming from, the areas that they're coming from, and identify if it's just a grumpy person or if it's really valid comments.
Yeah. So it sounds like kind of like listening to all of it, but then comparing what they're saying with data, trends, like what is the business case for what they're saying versus what is just a one-off.
Yeah, because our unsalted organic chips sell. They do sell. So we are keeping them.
You're listening to Building Unbreakable Brands, the podcast for leaders with a generational mindset. I'm speaking with Linda Renteria, co-owner and COO of Casa Sanchez Foods, and a passionate volunteer promoting STEM and manufacturing careers in Northern California. So, Linda, I want to switch gears a little bit and just talk a little bit about, some of the things that you're doing outside of the business or connected with the business maybe, but not directly in the day-to-day. The first is that you and I first met through the Women's Presidents Organization. And I just wanted to talk about that organization a little bit because it's one that has been really important to me and one that I, continue to just be excited about. I just meet so many fabulous women through it. I'm curious what the impact of that organization has been on you. Has it changed how you approach your role as a woman leader or just having that network of support?
Yeah, when you said women leader, I guess I grew up as a tomboy. My father, I'm the oldest, and Dad definitely wanted a boy, and I was willing to go fishing with him, hunting, doing all that stuff. So there was never really that women issue thing. Mm-hmm. For me, WPO offers more of the Latino versus white community.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think going to these meetings, the diversity of businesses that are in the meetings and their issues, how they're addressing those issues. And sometimes you think, okay, it's just us. Mm-hmm. It's just us, maybe. And when you hear that they're dealing with very similar issues and we're advising each other, and at no point did they say, oh, because Linda's Hispanic and she has a Hispanic food business, it's going to be different. Nothing like that. And you realize, okay, got it. And the feedback I get is very valuable, like you were saying, Meghan, because that way you come and use it with your business. Say, okay, I'm not the only one dealing with this. This has nothing to do with any other reason other than it's business issues. And it's really helpful to not focus on, okay, is this because we're a Hispanic business, we're Hispanic food, or we're working with retail stores, whereas they're working with big corporations, other bigger corporations. No, it's just business that you have to address, and then we work together to formulate a plan, a perspective. And again, coming from different perspectives, different eyes is really helpful for you to get out of the weeds and say, okay, wait a minute, you're right. There's a path. I got this.
Yeah.
So that's been really helpful to me.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And there is something that is so validating of, like, I always find that I learn a lot when I bring an issue to my group and they help me think about it and they have different ways to look at it than maybe I would. But one of the things I also find really valuable is to hear what other people's problems are, because it is that validating piece of like, oh, right, we all have these same issues. This isn't me personally doing something wrong or, failing in a way. Like, this is the work, right? Like, this is how business is done, and the problems that we're having, or challenges or, whatever they are, actually in a lot of ways the byproducts of doing something right. Like, you're growing, you have more challenges, more complex challenges. And there's something really validating about that peer learning, I think, when you hear other people say things that you're like, oh, yes, I also have that problem. But
and the failures, like you mentioned, Megan, if there's failures, then you say, okay, great. We're not true failures because you have to go through some of these things and you make some of the mistakes. One of the speakers at WPO conference said that sometimes when you created, there was a failure, but you still got it done. So it was not the most efficient, nothing. But again, that is another step for you to really accept and say, we did it. We still did it. Next time it's going to be much better. But when you hear that happening in the round table, you can say, got it. Okay, so they made mistakes. We all do. It's not just, and move and grow from that.
Mm. Have there been any specific moments or stories over your time where having either that peer network or some other network has changed the way you've approached a challenge or approached some opportunity for the business?
Yes, there's been many opportunities. Like you said, we learn from all their issues that they bring to the table. But I had one where my husband, how to support him better, because it's harder to do as a wife because you forget that. And I didn't understand the coach aspect. Now he's been involved in sports his whole life. But again, back to the Latino culture, that what do I need someone else to tell me how to do things? I know how to do things, right? And I noticed that a lot of the women have coaches. And how they use their coach. And that was really new to me and interesting. So we now are working with a coach.
Oh, cool.
To help my husband as the CEO, but also help the team. Because again, he still cannot get rid of the whole idea that he should be in charge of everything. So that helps us and it helps him. But that one was valuable because I didn't understand that role of a coach. And they helped me fully better understand that. And then I was able to sell it to him. And now we have a coach on board that is helping us with a lot of the issues that we need to address.
That's really cool. Yeah, it's fun how some of those things, it's like if you've never used one, never experienced it, it just doesn't, you hear the term, but it's not really that meaningful until you start to see how other people are using it and then also the benefit that they're getting from it. It's like, oh, yeah, I could do that.
Yeah.
I know you also have spent decades volunteering and advocating for STEM and manufacturing careers. Why is that work so important to you that you have invested so much time and effort in making that happen? I mean, other than obviously future employees, but why is that important?
So I've been really fortunate to have people believe in me my whole life. It started with my parents saying that you are going to college no matter what. I mean, we are going to pay for it. We're going to, I'm not going to buy you that doll that you want. I'm not going to buy you the toy you want. But I want to make sure you understand that when you're working out in the fields during the summers and all of this, we are going to make sure that we will pay for your college. And because you deserve to go there and you are smart enough. My teachers helped me with that too. 5th grade, my teacher encouraged me to read. I noticed you like reading. Don't ever forget that. Keep reading. I still remember Mr. Smith. Mr. Arson in middle school, I love science and math. And he told me you can get into so many places with science and math. So you continue with that, Linda. And then in high school, Colonel Pigeon, he was our counselor. He pulled me in for a meeting and said, okay, what do you want to do? You're really good in math and science and you seem to like it a lot. And I didn't have anybody in my family to encourage me to do, go to this and that. And he said, have you thought of engineering? I said, oh, okay, what's engineering? And so then pulled out the yellow pages. I tell this to kids, those don't exist anymore. Now you have the internet for numbers. In my little town of Watsonville near Santa Cruz in California, and I called a civil engineer because I did like being outdoors. I called him up. He didn't know me from anyone else, but said, come on over and I'll talk to you about what engineering is about. And it was really valuable. He gave me 2 hours of his time and said, if you have any more questions, come over. And here's some magazines on civil engineering, just for you to understand that you're not going to be the person doing the actual physical work, but you are going to be managing, designing, all of that. And that sounded really cool and interesting. So again, because of that, I got into engineering, and it's a very good career. I want to encourage others to do this. I'm 5'2". People, women and Latinos don't think that, oh my God, the math, the science. Math, you start with 1 + 1 = 2. It's not like they're going to throw calculus at you in kindergarten. And then you continue with that. And then science is the same thing. And you get into some really cool projects. The other one, but again, that whole concept of the nutty professor that, oh, you've got to wear glasses all the time and you've got to be dorky and nerdy to be a scientist or engineer is out the window. It's anyone can do this as long as you want to do, if you like the math and the science and do that. Manufacturing is the same thing. The greasy mechanic in manufacturing. And now, no, there are so many various careers in manufacturing that are so exciting. Food right now is very exciting. They're coming up with so many new things, just with peas, fake fish, fake, all of that science that's going on in food manufacturing too. So these are two really good career paths. Engineering, pretty much you can create your own degree right now in engineering. And food manufacturing, the same thing. We had an intern here. She started working here with the salsas, then moved on to chocolate, and now she works with peas. That's why I mentioned the peas. Now she's getting a master's degree in peas. Wow. So in food manufacturing, again, very cool careers. But if kids don't see it or hear about it, and they don't see their face in that career, they don't think it's for them. And that's why I do a lot promoting, again, over 35 years with STEM, and now almost 10 years with manufacturing and STEM and entrepreneurship. And we just moved the needle in STEM, where we're seeing more women in STEM than ever before, and it's growing, which is really cool. Because unfortunately, in the U.S., more kids want to be YouTubers and TikTokers than they do go into careers. Yeah. But we have to do our best and to encourage them.
Yeah, that's great. It's such important work. And it is so amazing how just like one person putting, the right suggestion in front of you at the right time can just have such a tremendous impact. So I love the fact that you're spending time and energy doing that for other kids. That's really cool.
Plus, it's rejuvenating and inspirational to see the kids, what they're doing too.
Yeah. Yeah. I always feel like, we'll have Henry on in a second, and I always feel like I learn as much or more from him. I go in to teach him, and then I realize I should listen to you more. Like, this is pretty cool.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Yeah. They've got a lot going on. So as you think about the future and what the future holds for you, the business, your family, what are you most excited about? What are you looking forward to?
4th generation.
Yeah.
He's in the house. He's been with us for 3 years. And I know that most businesses say, have your kids go work somewhere else first. Mm-hmm. I think it also depends on personalities of the person. And he's worked for us since summers. And then when he was in college, and now he's been here for almost 3 years now, over 3 years. And I approached him about 6 months ago, and I said, this is my 5th career path, and I'm going to my 6th. And I'm ready to start. I'm already starting my 6th career path. So I told him, what about taking over my job? And he loves it. Yeah. So I will be training him for the next 2 years. My role in the company is COO and what it all entails. Because sometimes they just see you working, coming in and doing that, but they don't fully understand. Lucky for us, he's been in the accounting department, production department, the maintenance department, and shipping now. So he's got a full-rounded education of the company. He also was the champion for our new ERP system, so he got to learn all about that too. And taking over my role, I'm excited about that because I think he really is passionate about the company and also excited to see what else can happen with the company. So the cool thing.
Oh, that's really cool. And that's exciting that you're already starting that work and, have a nice long time to be working together and see both what you can pass on and then also what he can bring. Is there anything that you see in him in particular that you're like really excited either to like continue to nurture or that you think would be valuable to the company or?
Yes, because I think one of the things with businesses, again, when they start, like my husband didn't have the data analysis component of things. He just knew, okay, let's start these products. I think just get it out. Let's do this. Let's see what happens, kind of thing. My son is bringing the analytical portion of it.
Oh, cool.
Math analysis. He has that background, and he's the component of costing, doing all of those analysis. We need that, especially when you start so small and you grow big, then you don't really, as long as you're selling and making some money, but now we're hit this year in particular, because of all the uncertainties happening, we're hitting more complicated roads, paths. And we need that data analysis, and we need someone to sit down and say, okay, we need to look at all the different scenarios. Here's the costing base for this. Here's the costing for this. Let's look at that. It's important for continued growth. So I think that's what he's bringing to the table, which is really exciting too.
You're listening to Building Unbreakable Brands, the podcast for leaders with a generational mindset. My guest is Linda Renteria of Casa Sanchez Foods, a third-generation manufacturer and distributor of fresh salsas and tortilla chips. We're going to turn the mic over to see what my son Henry can learn from Linda by asking her some of his questions as the voice of the next generation. So Henry, welcome. You have some questions for Linda?
Yes, I do. I do.
All right. Anytime you're ready, you go for it.
Okay, so what are your goals for the business? Do you have some hopes for it, or do you think you're good where you are?
No, we definitely have goals. We want to diversify the products that we make. It's not always easy, because if we want to do meal prep products or anything else, we have to buy equipment for that and space. And we don't have that right now. So we are looking at collaborations with other food manufacturers that they can make the products for us to diversify and then go into different regions than we're at right now.
All right. Second question. How many generations do you think this business is going to last?
Well, I hope it continues. Now, when I say I hope it continues, that's the family vision, my husband and our kids. But you know as well as I do that could be maybe fourth generation is in the house right now. He's working here. He's going to take over. He's saying that he wants to take over. And then from there, we'll see what happens.
Yeah, that sounds good. So do you use technology to make your tortilla chips?
We have to. Yes, we do use technology to make tortillas, because if you see before, my mother used to make them by hand, and then we had a little apparatus that make the tortilla, but that's just for the house. So when you come out here, we have a machine that grinds the corn. One cooks the corn, grinds the corn, and then makes it into a dough. It goes into the sheeter, which the sheeter makes the little round tortillas. And we're doing 1,500 pounds an hour of corn. So that's production. It's 10,000 bags in an 8-hour shift. And salsas, it's about 30,000 containers of salsa in an 8-hour shift.
Wow,
so yes, we have to use technology and equipment.
Yeah, that is awesome. For the joke, what do robots dip in salsa?
Whoa, what do robots dip in salsa? Yeah, you got me. No.
Microchips.
Oh, I should have had that one. That's cool. Very good. Thank you. Very good, Henry.
You can use that. I'm sure your son would appreciate that.
I'm gonna use it right now. We have a luncheon, so in the team office, in the office. So I'm gonna use that right now. Very good.
How old is your son?
He's 27.
Oh wow.
Yeah, he's the youngest of the three. So he's the one that's chosen to stay here. The other two ran off to the East Coast. What are you thinking of for careers, Henry?
I have a little business right now that we talked about. I think it was last episode.
Yep.
Yeah.
Your mom mentioned something that you're recycling and giving to the community. Wonderful.
Yes, that is the business. Is we'll take cans and we will give it to Connecticut because it gives us double our money than we get here. And
Great business model. Good for you.
Yeah. And then, we make that money into care packages and then donate them.
Wonderful. Congratulations. That's great.
But yeah, I feel like that's always been a really excited thing for me.
Thank you, Henry. That's great. Good for you. And if you're ever in California and you want to come visit the factory, you're more than welcome to tour.
All right.
Yeah, that would
Make
be
sure
fun.
to do that.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for being on Building Unbreakable Brands, Linda. This was a great conversation and really appreciate it. So if people want to either connect with you or learn more about Casa Sanchez Foods, what's the best way for them to do that?
They can do info at casasanchezfoods.com or Linda casasanchezfoods.com, either one. Or again, through our social media, they'll get to me. Anyone that has any questions or wants to know more.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. We will put that in the show notes. And thank you again just for just bringing so much energy and just realness, I think, to the conversation today. Really appreciated it.
Thank you. My pleasure. It was really fun to talk with you, Meghan. Again, from a long time ago, but great. Nice meeting you, Henry.
All right. Nice meeting you too, Linda.
I really appreciate Linda's engineering mindset of continuous improvement when it comes to her family business. One moment that really stood out to me was when she talked about introducing structure into a legacy business. You could tell that it was her own way to use her skills to protect the tradition and value of the brand. When she talked about writing down the recipes, setting clear procedures, and creating accountability, you could feel how that operational rigor was actually becoming a new form of stewardship. And as a fellow CEO and advisor, I really appreciate her insight on when to start the conversations about family governance. Ideally, not when things go wrong, but while everyone still loves each other and wants to protect what they've built together. If you're running a family business and are wondering how to prepare the next generation or how to bring your in-laws and extended family into the business with respect and clarity, Linda's story is such a powerful example of how to do it thoughtfully. To learn more about Casa Sanchez Foods, head to casasanchezfoods.com or check out the links in the show notes. And if this episode gave you something to think about or just made you hungry, please share it with someone else and be sure to leave us a review. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time on Building Unbreakable Brands.